Hi, and welcome to today's program. I'm Kate Averett, the Outreach Manager at the Black Mountain College Museum and Art Center. I'm happy to have had the chance to sit down with Onicas Gaddis for today's Perspectives talk. Onicas is a featured artist in our current exhibition, I Am a Citizen of the World, and is also a student of Black Mountain College alumna Sarah Carlisle Towery. Today, Onicas will be guiding us through his painting, Black Mountain, which is currently featured in the show, as well as the ways that he has explored his identity through his art practice. He'll also spend some time remembering his time with Sarah Carlisle Towery and the way that his experiences with her have changed the trajectory of his life. And now, we'll hand things over to Onicas. Thank you again for joining us.
Let's just say it starts with an emotion, and like a canvas this size is kind of like the perfect size that I need to work on, because sometimes I feel like I just want to explode on the canvas initially. So whatever that feeling, that emotion, whether it's joy, pain, sadness, whatever it is on a daily basis, because I paint every day and I'm just filtering it. And so once I get all that out, all the action and the color, and I'm also thinking about, of course, composition, um, and color balance and surface quality. And so once I get to that point and the canvas is like ready to kind of speak to me, because one thing Sarah Carlisle told me, and it was in a letter that she wrote me in 2003, and I still have it. And she was like, just don't think about the finished piece. Just enjoy the process, and the painting will tell you what it wants to be. So that's when I really started listening to the canvas, and I didn't realize that the messages, for a long time, I didn't realize that the messages were like for me. I, yeah, it's weird because, for years, I was in Florida, and I was just sitting in front of canvases, and, um, and I just remember her telling me in class, she used to come up to the canvas and like, she had some really long fingers, right? She was so beautiful. And she would put her fingers on my canvas and be like, this wants to go away, but this over here wants to be something. You gotta learn to, to listen and to make those choices. And in that now, 22 years later, the characters, they develop in that process, and I have to figure out what's the relation between like the main character and the surroundings and what. So it's, I mean, that's pretty much what it is, and it's so fun because like my art is always telling me a story, and I get to, and I get to just, I'm lucky enough really to be able to sign my name on it, because the spiritual expressionism aspect of my work, I feel like it's God, and I'm being led to make this work, and and that's when I signed the painting, and I can't touch it again. I don't touch it again, and that's when it's revealed to me like what that feeling was, what that emotion was, and that's when the title comes, and yeah, and that's kind of what the process is. I actually tell people now that it's not just one painting that I'm making, or on this canvas. It's like that's not the whole story. It's all the paintings that I've made, and it's just one big painting that I'm making, and the story is continuous, and it's about healing. And it's been for me really a healing process to not carry the heaviness and the weight of what I'm going through now, what we went through in our childhoods, my two brothers and my sister, Bart, Philip, and Josephine. But we still carry that. It's just that I'm lucky enough, and I'm sure that they do stuff to kind of curtail that pain. But I'm blessed enough to have an outlet to where like people can actually see what what's going on inside of here and here, and that's the conversation between my heart and the canvas. That's my process, and I mean, my art is the reason that like I know who I am, And back in like 2004, between 2004 and 2008, maybe, my work was called Search for Identity, which on my website there's two collections, Search for Identity 1 and 2. And during this time, like my paintings, they used to take like weeks to complete because it was so much listening and a lot of messages that were coming through that process. And that's why it was called Search for Identity, because I mean that's basically what I was doing, trying to find out like why I'm here and what's my purpose and like who am I. And growing up in foster care, like you don't really have that, you don't really have an identity. And I think that quest is probably one of the reasons I feel like I'm still living, because I was so curious. I felt something inside, and I guess that was my goal, to kind of find out what that feeling was. And I saw things differently than most people. And it wasn't until I met Sarah Carlisle and she told me, and I'll never forget, I was standing there with my portfolio and she was looking at it and she said, "You're an artist." And I was like, okay, that's what I am. And and like I said, she was the first one that really gave me that idea, like I'm an artist, and yeah, we see things differently. And I think I gained a lot of confidence when she told me that, just by not being confused, anymore. And my life has been like so fun, and I've seen so many beautiful things. Just either selling art, giving art, people coming in my space, looking at my work. Some love it and some don't, and that's cool because like I just paint, and I don't really paint to please or for aesthetics. It's just something that like I have to do. And yeah, so being in here and with my painting next to Miss Sarah's painting is it is a dream come true, actually, to be in a museum. I didn't know which museum I would you know have my debut in, I guess you'd say. But I'm so glad it's Black Mountain College Museum, and the connection to like Miss Sarah and the history is, yeah, I really haven't processed it yet. I've just been painting. We used to talk about it in class because all of us we just wondered like, how did I end up in class with them? It was just like, it was Virginia Bradshaw. She was so she passed away and I wasn't there, and it was like, but she gave me my first easel. Virginia Bradshaw did. And Deborah Griffith, it was at her house at the old Kellerton School, which is where we met on Tuesdays from like 9 o'clock, and we had lunch, and then we wrapped up around 3. But we were ask they would ask me and say, "How did we find you? Where did you come from?" Kind of thing. I was like, I don't know. I just remember being in class, but we kind of have this story that kind of makes sense. There was a framer in Alexander City. His name was Steve Gaddis, and my name is Steve Onicas Gaddis, right? So he was a framer, and I took one of my drawings to him to have it framed. And they all used him at the Alabama Art Colony for their framing. And so we're thinking that maybe one of the members came in and saw a drawing, saw my name, and then he told me that they thought it was him that did the drawing. And he was like, "No, there's another Steve Gaddis. He's in Rockford, Alabama," which is like 20 minutes away. And I guess somehow they reached out, or I found them. Honestly, we're all really unclear on like how I became like part of that group. And but I remember when I first went there, my sister Josephine, she still's like, she remember I used to drop you off over there with that, that lady, Miss Sarah. And I was like, yeah. So I'm in debt to her for sure. But and so when I first got there, Miss Sarah, Deborah, Virginia, Loretta C. And it was like 9 women in there, me. And so I used to spend my money on my art supplies, and I rarely had money for lunch, right? So, but I'm going to paint anyway, right? So I get over there and we paint. It was like the second, third week, I remember. And it's like, "Are you coming up for lunch?" And it's like, "No, I'll just stay down here and paint a little bit more. You guys go ahead." And then Sarah Carlisle, she she realized that I didn't have food. So every Tuesday for like a year, she would bring my lunch. And it was, now when she first brought it, I was like, it was peanut butter and jelly, pimento cheese, and some kind of jelly, and some homemade bread. And I was like, never eaten, pimento cheese or the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I was like, no, thank you. And then, of course, hunger tells you to go ahead and eat it, right? It was the best sandwich ever. It was so good. But her instructions were to me, because I had only drawn like portraits, but I was really good at drawing people. So before I met this group, I never touched paint before. And when I came in there, I chose to use oil paint because I knew you could be like descriptive with it, right? I didn't know anything about acrylic paint. And so she noticed like I would draw my compositions real tight, and then I would go back in and try to paint with that oil paint real tight. And she was like, "All right, give me that oil paint, take this acrylic, and stop trying to draw with the brush. Like, let the bristles do the work." And that's when she went into like all the the push and pull, and I was, yeah. So what she taught me was to pretty much paint from my heart, and whatever is in here is going to translate. And like I said, that was years ago, and now I see the work that I make, and I'm just really grateful to have met her in that group. And meeting her, it really changed the course of my life, because without that group and her, telling me that I'm an artist, I mean, that really is like, that really was profound, because like a woman, and I saw the work she made, I saw her making her work, and it was just like, yeah, I saw the magic. I was like, man, I want to paint like that one day. And but she didn't have an easel. She didn't paint on an easel. Her canvases were on the floor, and she had all her stuff around, and she would go around the canvas, and I asked her, I said, "Why do you, go on all 4 sides?" And she was like, "Well, that's me allowing the painting to tell me even like the orientation it wants to be." And so I started on my easel, like paint a little bit, turn it, paint a little bit more, turn it. But now it's like I can kind of see like the balance, and so I just paint it in now. But yeah, that was instrumental. Yeah. Well, when I left Alabama for Florida, 2001, maybe 2000, and I was in the Hollingsworth Gallery in Palm Coast, Florida, and I had a studio which I lived in. I was homeless, and so I started talking about my mentor, Sarah Carlisle Towery, and she painted with Joseph Albers, and because she used to tell us stories at lunch about all these people, and I was like, didn't know who Joseph Albers was. I'd never heard of a Hans Hofmann. Like I didn't. So when I get to Florida and I started talking about her, and then I was surrounded by a lot of like people that knew a lot about art and the history of art, and they would look at me and say, "Wait a second, your mentor painted with Joseph Albers?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's." And it's like, and Hans Hofmann, and it's like, you don't know who those guys were, do you? It's like not a clue. And then of course they give me all these books, and that's when I was like, I had to step back and was like, whoa, that was God put me with her in that group, and So yeah, and then I started studying about like, you know, all the artists in history. After that, I wanted to know a lot more than I did. So, but yeah, I realized that there was a connection, you know, through me to her to this region, and so I think it was like 5 years ago when my wife and I divorced, and she moved to Sanford, North Carolina, with my kids, and then after like, you know, 3 or 4 years, I moved to Sanford to be closer to my kids, and when I moved to this state, I Googled what's the best art scene in North Carolina, right? Asheville, right? I said, okay, that's my destination. I don't know when or how, but one day I'm gonna live in the River Arts District and I'm gonna be a part of the. Yeah, it's so surreal. This particular piece means a lot to me. So I'll just start from where it started. I was in my studio in Pittsburgh, and I didn't want to get paint all on the floor, so I put this canvas, blank canvas, on the floor, and I probably made 15 paintings with this canvas as a backdrop. I mean, as a drop cloth, right? So, but when I would clean my brushes, I was kind of like working on the composition of this piece, like just cleaning the brushes and making marks. And then it started to like tell me it wanted to be a painting, right? So after, you know, all that, I cleared it, and then I started looking at it, and then I had this thought that I was going to make this painting, and one day it was going to be hanging in Black Mountain College Museum. That's what the initial thought for this painting was. And then I put it up on the wall, I tacked it up on the wall, and then I started, same process of like going through the characters and listening to the canvas. And this is like symbolic of my time in Florida and my connection to the Florida Highwaymen. One of my uncles is one of the Florida Highwaymen. And then the mountains, when I brought it here and Alice first saw it, her first question was, where are the mountains? I said, oh, there they are. Well, yeah, and then the title came, it's like Black Mountain. So, yeah, I did have aspirations of one day being in this museum, and it's, again, surreal that I'm here. I guess, you know, conceptualize and put in the work, and things will happen. And that's what I'm starting to see in my life. Like, from 7 years old, having the thought of one day I could grow up to be a well-known artist, right, and make money and take care of my family, which is what ultimately my art is about. So, with my kids, Royalty, and Roman, they came to visit me when I was working on this piece, and whenever they come visit, they're gonna have to paint something. I mean, they actually have paintings that they made that I framed, and they have them hanging in their house in Marietta. And my daughter, I bought her a lot of art supplies for Christmas, so she's sending me pictures of paintings that she's doing. This is like, it's really, really heartfelt. But when they came, I was like, all right, have at it. And then my son, he loves to do the Jackson Pollock thing, right? With just splatters and all this blue. That's his. And my daughter, she got in a chair and wanted to make some marks up top. So those orange-looking marks up there, they're hers. And their two cousins were with them, so they made some marks too. So, like I told you before, it's like, now my kids are in a museum as well. So it's just a beautiful thing to have this piece in here. This is an interpretation of what I would think would be like a younger Sarah Carlisle Towery, right? So, and everybody that has seen this piece, they're just drawn to this face. And it's something about just somber, but still you could tell that there's joy in just that face on the canvas. Well, I didn't even know that you guys had a piece of hers in the collection, but when Alice one day was like, "Can I show you the piece that we have of Sarah Carlisle's?" I was like, "Oh my God, I'm about to see more of her work in person." But no, this piece is, as I look at it, I can kind of see why I wanted to to have the figurative aspect of my work, but I see on here it's kind of like a collage, if you will. There's some kind of paper that she used, but the last time that I saw Miss Sarah before she passed away, I visited her in her house in Alexander City, and the lady that was her caregiver at the time, when I pulled up, she says, "That lady must really love you." I was like, "Why?" She said, "She's been in the bed for 3 days, and you called and say you're coming. She wants to get up and take a shower and put on a nice dress." But when I went there and I walked, and she rode her rail car name up to the bedroom, and she wanted to show me what she was working on. And I think this was the last piece that she made. It was titled "Homage to Joseph Albers." And on this canvas, one side had these squares, and the other side had a bouquet of flowers. And she was trying to get them to not compete, right? And I was like, "Are you going to do that?" And then she looked at me and said, "Will you critique this work for me?" And I was like, "Miss Sarah, I can't talk about your work." She said, "Oh, yes, you can." And then I just went and made something up, but even that, like this is like these are like epiphanies that are like happening right now, right? Even as I look back to just the confidence that she instilled in me as far as as far as my art is concerned, and like I said, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And last Saturday, of course, it was my birthday. I turned 46, so that's when we decided to come and see the show, and to be in here and next to her is the best thing ever. And I'm so grateful.